Thank you all. Welcome. It's wonderful to have you here. And, we might have a lot of people joining us, and I don't know if maybe somebody started to share their location where they're calling us from, but Danny, if there are some of those shares, it would be great to know. Um, Let us know where you're calling from, just to have a sense.
Rome, Munich, Medellin, Buenos Aires, Paris, Milan, Sweden, Uruguay, Ireland, Belgium.
Great. We're all over, and it's wonderful to have such a diverse community getting together today. For our audience, please feel free to use the chat to share your thoughts and questions, which my colleague Daniela Kramer, who just spoke, will share back with us here. And so I am Lucette Jaimes, Director of Learning and Development at Ashoka, and we are in the track of changemaker companies. As some of you know, Ashoka's work in this area aims to partner with companies to engage with social entrepreneurs, social innovation, and change making, and to really reimagine how is it that business can look like in this world, and in a way that responds to current challenges and creates value for all. So the panel here today aims to help us all learn more and deepen our understanding about how to help companies change and succeed by increasing the change-making power of their employees. Our proposition is that employees equipped with the right skills, which we call change-making skills, empathy, new leadership, teamwork, and problem solving, among others, can help companies increase their social impact. They can create new types of value and ultimately help the companies navigate the current change-based markets. In few words, the larger number of change-making employees a company has, the better it will do. That's our proposition. So let's look at a few things in our world's current context. First, companies are facing one of the most volatile and uncertain times with a quite contracting economy. Second, we really are aware that as humanity, we're facing global existential threats like climate change, COVID, which are really calling us all to adjust our behavior and ask what's the impact of our actions in these problems. So many of us are really looking now long term rather than short term, redefining bottom lines, and really going into innovation and innovating to find solutions for all these different challenges. So with this in mind, I'd like to introduce our panelists today who will share with us about their views, experiences, and examples about the power of employees and what happens with companies that enable their employees to contribute to change. So I'm pleased to introduce Elaine Yu, Senior Partner, Global Leadership Advisory, CEO Search and Development, and member of the board practice at Egon Zehnder. Also, Fabio Costantini, COO at Randstad HR Solutions. And Fernando Saloco, Latin America South HR Director at Boehringer Ingelheim. So welcome all. Thank you so much for being here. It's so great to have this conversation with you here. And so I really would like to start asking Elaine to share with us about your thinking around the trends that you are noticing in companies and how some of those companies are seeing employees as a path towards identifying opportunities and solutions in the current global context. And what is also happening with the employees. So it'll be great to hear your perspective. Please go ahead and share with us.
Thank you very much, Lizette. It's a pleasure to be here with everybody. Well, I guess, to start with the obvious, the world just got a lot more complex, right? Not just this year, but certainly I think things came to a head in a very obvious way this year. And in the midst of this complexity, the rules of the past, the tested formulas don't serve as well anymore, right? Because cause and effect are not so predictable. even in the areas that used to be predictable. And so suddenly sort of doing well or getting to the right answers and knowing what to do, finding the path is no longer just about, for example, getting more data or more analysis or setting in place processes and systems to control things or forecast better. So what is it that this new world requires of people and of organizations to do well? Well, I think, one very clear area is in how companies and people need to be able to sense better, what is going on real time, and sense on a number of different levels, how people are feeling, what else is going on, how the dynamics are heading. And after you have the sensing, to be able to be bold in trying out new approaches. Like, what if we tried that? We don't know if it's going to work, but let's make a move here so that we can see what happens. And then it allows us to adjust maybe and, observe and adjust and then maybe try something else. So with that as background, I guess one way to think about it is that what companies need now from employees is for them to be better sensors, right? More sensors and better sensors from the ground, from all angles, from every part of the organization, and to be also bolder experimenters. And of course, the company needs to support them in doing so as well. So I would say, to answer the last bit of your question of what do I notice more and what do I hear leaders in companies that we deal with noticing more in their companies, is that we're also in a world now where there are many employees, there's a generation of employees that combines this sort of high-mindedness, maybe of purpose and of mission, with also a lightness of approach, a nimbleness in saying, yeah, let's see if this will work, and let's try to get together and do it this way. So I think all in all, these relate or resonate very much with the change maker skills that you were talking about, Lisette.
Yeah, thank you. I just would like to make a reminder for our audience. If you have questions, please do share them with us, because we will be reading them to our speakers. And so, Danny, if there are any questions, please feel free to share them with us. And so, thank you, Elaine, for sharing this. I would love to invite, you have shared a little bit about the context, what you are seeing, some trends and some particular skills and behaviors that you see in the employees. It would be really great to hear from Fabio now. And Fabio, it would be lovely to hear about your experience and what Randstad is actually doing about this. So please go ahead and share with us.
Thank you, Lucette. Hi all. So yes, we'll talk about a little bit of our experience here in Italy. First of all, of course, thank you so much for the opportunity to be part of this panel. And a brief introduction. Probably you know Randstad. Today is the first player for HR consultancy services at global level. And our ultimate goal is to touch the work lives of 500 million people worldwide by 2030. So given therefore that our core business is just the perfect match, so the match between the supply and demand for work, the theme of skills is increasingly central. So especially in a world of work that is changing so fast, both because of the impact of digitalization due to the age of a population, and even only for the external events such as one until a few months ago unthinkable, a global pandemic. So since we deal with people, candidates, and needs of staff to be included for companies, we can say that we have a privileged observatory on the world of work. So for over 5 years, we have thought that the condition to still be the leading company in our market was to be worried about the mismatch that exists between the world of education and the world of work. The world of education, at least in Italy, is not able to change so fast as required by the market. So we decided that our R&D department was called the education department. So to make also a long story short, in 2019, we have oriented here in Italy over 40,000 students. So we orient them towards the labor market. We talk to them not about Randstad. This is important. It's not an employer branding project, but we try to direct them by making them understand, first of all, who they are, and trying to give them tools to understand their attitudes, skills, expectation. And we introduce also the theme of skills. So the physiological transition after orientation is that of training. And it's in this frame that the partnership with Ashoka is based. A few words about what we are doing with Ashoka. So we have defined a set of 8 skills that employees should develop to succeed in bringing social and business impacts. So we have listed them into a sort of skills framework that we have called employability and change making. It includes digital agilities, so the ability to act in complex and rapidly changing contexts, such as those gathered by the digital transformation, empathy, collaboration, team working, adaptability, and change management, learning management. So all the environment that needs to work today, and on daily basis we translate this framework into our business offer. So developing skills, services, and platform to support people throughout their professional journey, from school to work to every following career transition, and introducing also to companies the right employees to face market and society challenges. Does it work?
Yeah, great. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Let's see. Let me check if there are any questions. You can let me know. Okay, great. So let's actually also hear from Fernando about what they are doing in Boehringer Ingelheim, how they're engaging their employees, and the behaviors that they are looking for their employees to develop. Fernando, please do share with us.
Thank you, Lucette. In Boehringer, we started a process of transformation since, let's say, 2017, end of 2016. The company defined 3 behaviors. We don't talk about skills now. The behaviors are accountability, agility, and entrepreneurship. And if I am to say that the level of simplicity that brings to the organization, and even from the standpoint that you can recall them pretty easily, and when you can recall them, then you can start thinking of what that actually means, and then you can translate into execution. You know, that takes a long path, and it's been around 5 years working on that, and we still have a path. Changing behaviors of individuals and also of organization, it's a big challenge, and for us, it's we are not the exception. What we identify in the region in South America, that the COVID brought us an opportunity, and I don't want to talk about too much of the COVID. Maybe it may sound boring to all of us because we have been hearing this for quite a while. It seems the years so far, but the reality that we identify that we can connect through this extreme situation that we all live in to the inner purpose of each of us and connect this with the purpose of the organization. So connected to what Elaine was saying, to become more sensors, and also it's connecting to one of the skills of being a change maker, what I connect personally with empathy. We identify that from a company perspective, we can start a journey where we can connect this ability that we can develop as human beings to be sensors, to be someone who can empathize with someone else, to understand their needs, and within an environment that it's structured and is organized as a company, we can accelerate that. So we're starting a journey connecting your own purpose in life to dig deeper, and we are, let's say, building a community of change maker to dig on that, honestly, because one of the key things that we foster, it's empathy, but also the level of leading, you know, taking one step forward, which is leadership in my perspective, and also to create impact. So we are strengthening the community on that direction. And it's very connected to the AEI behaviors, especially the entrepreneurship one, because entrepreneur means creating something of value for someone else. So for us was a perfect match. And if I am to say, the experience so far has been really great. The change-making community is helping us to identify those people who actually want to take one step forward, to be bold enough to dig deeper, to be more sensor, as Elaine mentioned, to identify what your purpose is in life, but also to connect that purpose with the purpose of the company. We are a pharmaceutical company that we are here to improve life of humans and animals, and to make a difference there. So the motivation that you can create when connecting your own purpose with the purpose of the company grows exponentially, and in that sense, the impact that you can create. So when you create this community of change making, that you can connect people with equivalent purposes, that you can redirect the agenda towards the purpose of the company, this significantly increase the impact that you can make in the business and of course in society. We have a program that I know a colleague of mine, Dana, already mentioned, and Manuela also, which is Making More Health. Making More Health is a partnership with Ashoka. That change-making process is part of the DNA of the Making More Health program, and is very much connected to the purpose of the company, of how we can create impact. And through the change-making community, we are strengthening that partnership and creating and sustaining impact. So this is what we are doing so far. And if I am to say also connecting to COVID, let's say we have a moment that everything holds together regarding this about being more sensors, that we were not so much sensing what were going on with our people. And through open our minds to be closer, to listen more, despite having thousands of emails, several town halls and so on, we are not actually deeply listening what the needs were. So we started a process of strengthening the dialogue and understanding deeper what our people need. And we were able to satisfy most of the needs of people for help, especially in the COVID, through the articulation of the change-making community and with the support of Ashoka and the Making More Health program to channel that need for creating impact beyond borders. So so far, this is the experience that we have taken in terms of change-making and the change-maker community.
Thank you, Fernando. We actually have a question for you. And it's actually, how do you link personal purpose with the corporate purpose?
Okay, we are not reinventing the wheel. In several companies, they have, let's say, programs, let's put it in this way, that are called different name, but we know it as Employee Resource Group, which is people that gather together spontaneously and then create an agenda on a certain topic, usually genders or the environment. We are using that type of approach first to connect the people with to find people with equivalent purpose in life, so they can connect and they can socialize. This is something also connected to the change-making approach. Like you connect people with similar, let's say, perspective, let's put it this way. And we have, this program is pretty well articulated and you need to follow certain rules. And they can articulate an agenda connecting with the purpose, but it has to be connected to the reason why of our company, which is improving lives. Which in turn, if you're, for example, if there is people that are very much fond of, let's say, gender equality, let's put it this way, okay, what you can do from working on improving the gender equality on improving lives and the health of the community where you operate. So this is the way that we are shaping and articulating, so you can, let's say, make a double loop. You connect with your purpose, you socialize with other people that have a similar purpose than you, and then the agenda is articulated towards the purpose of the company, starting from your inner one to create an impact inside and outside. That's the approach. We are starting the process actually this week in terms of connecting the people with their purpose and others with a similar purpose. And then next year we will have the first approach in terms of the agenda. So we're very, very thrilled to see the outcome.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. And you know, there is a question for the three of you, and you will answer it from your own lenses. But you know, in everything that we're hearing trends, we're hearing, you know, things that are happening that gives us some new ideas and show the innovation. But what are the challenges behind that? And Fabio, it would be really good to hear, you know, what are the challenges that you've really faced in bringing this model to where it is, because systems face resistance, right? And so when they want to be changed. And so it will be really great to hear your experience on that. And Elaine, it will be also good to hear from your perspective, not only from your clients and how you're seeing them face these challenges, but also maybe in your own company. You know, what's happening for you has anything changed in the way that you actually do your work that is aligning to these shifts we're seeing? So Fabio, go ahead and let us know what you think about the challenges.
Yeah, talking about challenges, we have to say that nowadays, as I told before, skilling is a crucial concept in the transitional job market. So career paths are not or no more linear as they were in the recent past. So this is probably one of the main challenges. Companies are even more searching for new skills as they have tested what the VUCA scenario really means. So this uncertain period is an opportunity to all of us to develop a new services, but also to run this challenge and to close the gap or to reduce the skills mismatch, enhancing people towards new challenges. Talking about our environment, it means Randstad as a company. We are constantly open with a dialogue with our manager, and all the performance appraisal, let me say, in example, is completely changed today. So it's based today with a great conversation, one-to-one manager with the employee in order to share on let me say, not daily, but monthly or maximum 3 monthly basis. What does it mean challenge? Because everything is really changing fast. So the new and the future and the challenge is that to be agile is a question of DNA. And of course you have to work a lot on the development of your people, and also never run alone. This means that we really believe in partnership. We really believe in a long chain. So involving all the stakeholders due to the fact of our core business. And final, the challenge is also to choose or to be lucky and work in a company with a really a solid mission. So yes, the purpose, but if you have the values that are so strong, you are for sure able to evolve and to follow the future, let me say. Does it work?
Ah, great. Thank you for sharing that. And Elaine, it would be great to hear from you too.
Yeah, I think if I could, I mean, challenges, of course, are contextual, but if I can talk to a pattern that I see everywhere and that I hear all the time from the leaders that we work with, is simply that behaviors are very hard to shift, right? And so I was actually one of my questions was going to be to Fernando, if we have time, of how they've managed to start to shift some of these behaviors towards the big three that you've identified. But, behaviors are hard to shift because, humans are programmed in this way that we become attached to certain beliefs and assumptions, and those assumptions make us attached to the way we've found to do certain things, right? Or the way we've come to what we've come to expect of people or of situations. And so I think loosening those attachments to those assumptions and beliefs is the first step to behavioral change. But that's very hard to do at scale. Yeah. So brainwashing, I've always thought in a, constructively used could be very helpful. And, that's also, you could argue, part of what modern day marketing is all about, right? So I think that then you asked, what is something that I've noticed and that I feel proud of that we've done in the firm? I would say it's that we came to the realization that, the human capability cannot be centered just in the domain of the mind and of problem solving. And so if we want to do things, big things, and to make change, we really need to be looking at people through these interconnected domains of the mind, of body and of spirit, right? And only when there is the integration in that people can really find flow and really have this sense of real well-being and of ability, of capability. And so we've really invested, I think, in the last, I would say decade in various ways in giving people, all the people in the firm, a way to be developing how they are, the being in addition to the doing. And that means, for example, spending more time on reflection, spending more time also on just having the space and the awareness of people around you and of deeper conversations, not just transactional, even though very pleasant transactional conversations and ways of being with each other. So we've invested in, I guess, broadly speaking, a kind of development programs that draw people's awareness to the fact that first you have to be whole, and you have to have enough space actually to feel human. And that is then the beginning of all these other things that you can do about thinking differently, about working differently with other people, about the way you address conflicts or the way you address challenges. So yeah, I think that's the big shift.
Great. Thank you. And it would be great to also hear from you, Fernando, about the challenges, but also connected to Elaine. She offered a question, right? How do you change the behaviors?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Fernando. I know it's cheating to ask.
No, it's okay, and thank you, Elaine. No, it's a big challenge. Any change on behaviors, it's something that we have been dealing within organization for a long time, and there is no secret formula. But what I have identified so far is that I think that is very much critical listening. And this is something that, let's say it's revolving in my head constantly, because we are all educated to provide answers, and we are all educated and articulated within organizations to execute. So anytime that there is a need, we need to work in a solution and make it happen. So organizations, we are defined as an engine for efficiency, for execution, which is okay, and I love it. I love execution, and I'm very big fan of that. But I am to say, when the world that we are living today, they have pushed us into a situation where there is no actually answers, that now we need to think and then re-elaborate and rethink again to go into execution, or execute faster, reflect faster, and then act again. So a discussion that we are having internally, especially within the HR team, is how are we going to introduce into our organization this lead time between a request and an action, or a request and an answer. And maybe an answer could be another question, because I'm certain that this, let's say, change of questions will lead us to a different solution, and probably it could be more innovative, okay, than other ones. And technology is helping us. Technology is helping on addressing a lot of analytical topics. If I am to say, my thinking in terms of technology will be now the source of efficiency, and the added value will be connecting to the question that we can make as humans, how we can socialize those questions, and how we can actually channel ourselves to do something different. So if I am to say, Elaine, I'm very much connected to the thing of sensing. That's something that computers cannot do now, and so far. So humans, we can sense, and we can try to go deeper and try to have better conversation to understand what are the actual needs of others. And when you talk about others, you can put everyone on the table. It could be one-on-one, it could be the organization with the market. It could be two functions within the organizations. How can you interact? How can you understand the needs of the others, and how can you articulate together a proposition of value to the other one? So when we think about the AI behaviors that we're talking about, entrepreneurship is very much connected. Accountability and agility is about much regarding to delivery. So I think by working further on entrepreneurship, we can then trigger and accelerate the quality of accountability and agility. How are we doing this? It's very systemic. We need to start understanding what is going on, first individually and then organizational wide. There is, as I mentioned, there is no secret formula, but how you can create programs, incentives, learnings, journeys for people to try to identify where they stand and how they can connect to the expected behavior. And it takes time. There was, if I had to share an experience, someday I was discussing with another HR directors, and one brought a presentation from 5 years ago or more. And he mentioned, okay, the situation that we addressed 5 years ago is the same today. So I said, wow. If within an organization it's so difficult to change, imagine when we speak about society, but you need to start from somewhere. So there I realized that it takes time. You need to be as simple as possible in terms of the behavior expected. Sometimes and this is a reflection from the human resources profession that I love. But sometimes we create so complex skills, sets and 10, 15. It's very difficult to address as a human being, and even more as an organization. So the simpler we can make it, the better. And then try to be consistent over time as much as we can, and making sure that we create all the incentives necessary, meaning when I talk about incentives, meaning like a learning program, the way that you reward your variable payments, the way that you communicate especially, and the conversation that you have to maintain the direction or where you're gonna go. I have two kids, one of 3 and the other 7, and through repetition, you can get to see that then the behavior starts to showing up. So I'm very much on the repetition and the reason why behind those behaviors that we're looking for. This is so far, it's still a journey. We are seeing the results showing up. If I am to say the pandemic accelerate some transformation, because I truly believe that these AI behaviors are very much connected to the needs of this new world. And if you see that they're not connected, then you need to start thinking twice and reframe it, indeed. And a community of change makers can help you, because they usually are people that they have the skills that we need today in the inner self. So there could be also another actions to take. Yeah.
Great, thank you. There is a question that we received that is actually quite related to what you just shared. I'll go ahead with it, and it's, how do you manage impact then? Do you use frameworks like theory of change?
Actually, we are trying to create impact. I like the theory of change, and I'm a very social person, and try to induce that to everyone that is connecting to me. And sorry to be so repetitive, but this topic of sensing, this topic of the quality of dialogue, is the way, I think it's the best way to create something that is going to be of value for someone else, and in a certain way you're influencing on the other one. Okay, so what we are seeing that with the action that we're taking now, connecting your purpose, finding people that are equivalent to you on that purpose, and then articulate an agenda connected to the purpose of the company to create impact, is a way of articulating the managing of change, right? We are starting small with tiny actions, demonstrate the value, and then you can escalate it further. And I guess this is also the spirit of the change making, is how you can start small to escalate impact or escalate communities. And this is kind of the spirit that we are looking for. I would rather think big, but start small, to be honestly on my approach. And usually in the theory of exchange, you will gather more people as soon as you can demonstrate the value of the actions or the new behavior they are showing are actually paying off. It will be of value for those people. So as simple as it looks, it takes change making inner self. It takes boldness to take the step, and to be open to whatever will come. Sometimes it's not what you expect, and reflect on that and execute again. That's kind of the approach.
Great, thank you. I have a comment and a question for you, Elaine. A comment is by Theo. Constructive manipulation sounds like motivation combined with inspiration, no? So it's a comment / question. And then the question
What a word,
yeah,
manipulation. Oh.
exactly. And the following question is more around when you're looking at the different companies you work with, do you see that the challenges change regarding their culture, their corporate culture, whether they increase or change or whatever? So those two comments for you.
First, I like that reframing a lot, Theo. Thank you. Just say that again, Lisette, the question around corporate culture.
Yeah, so do the challenges in adopting these new structures and skill sets in companies actually might increase or decrease or just be different depending on the level of the corporate culture, depending on how the organization actually works, or or is it not related to that corporate culture?
So culture is probably the biggest, let's say it's the holy grail, right? People are all trying to figure out, how do you make this culture thing work? What is it? And because we know that it's like the bloodstream of an organization. If you get it right, then everything kind of flows. So to say that corporate culture has no influence would be completely, to my mind, would be completely wrong. And yet, I think that we see lots of things happening sometimes despite corporate culture. So I would put it this way, that corporate culture doesn't determine everything that happens, people do. And sometimes, as you know, as you and Fernando were saying earlier on, sometimes change happens, you know, ground up in small ways. But I think culture is essential for anything to scale. And what is culture? Culture is ultimately a collection of behaviors, right? And norms and beliefs. So it's like maybe your culture is in one direction. It has these characteristics, but somewhere in the system, something shifts and there is a movement that builds up. And at some point, you need the corporate culture, and this is the systems, maybe the lead, certainly starting with the leadership, then the leadership supporting the systems, the processes, you know, all of that, to be in line with the direction of change. You know, so I do think culture, corporate culture that is too rigid, can get in the way of progress, for sure. But I also think that very often, yes, things can shift and or grow in a direction that is different from how the culture currently is.
And how important is the support from high leadership in order to make those changes possible?
Essential. You know, I mean, I think that old saying of the tone at the top, like I said, there may be a period in which, you know, at the ground level and, you know, below the radar, things work and change and shift. But I think without the right top leadership, support and sponsorship, you can't make it run throughout the system. I'd be interested to hear what others feel.
Fabio, do you have any thoughts about engaging with top leadership for creating these changes?
So the leadership within a company is essential, of course, to succeed, and also to close the dialogue. Probably coming back to the culture, to the corporate culture. The corporate culture is determined by the behaviors of the people who make the company. So coming back also to what Fernando said before, behaviors are the result of the goal where a company have to go. So of course, all the companies are focused on profit and results, but it's not possible to develop a company or to increase or to achieve profit if you have not the right and clear mindset. And probably now more than ever, both employer and employees must develop the new mindset to reach business impacts and also now more than ever social impacts. So so far I guess that culture, leadership and behavior are probably the key words of a change making environment, I guess.
And if I am to add regarding the tone from the top, I think what we usually expect in the organization from the top leaders is to set some kind of a midterm direction. And we know that from a human perspective, that we need certain perspectives. We need the direction. And I think this direction is needed in order to create impact, you know, collective impacts, because all of the actions from the employees will be adjusted to go into that direction. Whether it is stated on a paper or more than the paper is how it is communicated or lived, or the incentives behind going in this direction. So if I am to say, for me, the tone from the top is critical. Even in the more or the less hierarchical organization, usually there is at least one objective or strategy or approach, or a couple of them, that are articulating the action of everyone to create the final results. Okay. And other companies are very hierarchical, and they just need the sign off or the go from the senior leadership to execute. Other than not so on, maybe they're much connected with the strategy. But in the end, there is a direction from the senior leadership that are the ones that are binding people together, binding the actions together to create a result that will create an impact. Otherwise, the behaviors get so spread apart that there is no actual, let's say, impact in the end. Sorry to be redundant in this regard. So if I am to say, for me, the senior leadership is critical. Depending on the style organization, it could be waiting for distraction, or at least having a clear strategy of where to go. The role is fundamental for having a direction, for having a perspective. And it is even more important in a situation like we are living today, where there is no answers, where people need perspective. And at least within this, let's say, very tiny world that we have in organizations, to have one solid ground to put our feet on, we will certainly set the basis for people to take bolder steps, or to be eager to take more risk, which in the end, in my view, is what ended up creating innovation too. So if I am to echo what Fabio and I said, for me, it's very fundamental. Depending on the style, even with a very directive approach or a very organic approach, you need some direction from the leaders regarding where you're going to go. So that's my view. Yeah.
Great. Yeah. Thank you. Now let's move our conversation a little bit towards structures that companies can offer, or support that companies can offer to their employees. And I like to actually start with you, Fabio, particularly because it would be quite good to understand your approach to your HR clients in helping them work with this and their employees. And then I'll open up for Elaine and Fernando. You know, what are these? Like, if we weren't to name few structures that enable companies to help and support their employees, how would that look like? What are those? And so, Fabio, it would be great to hear what you are offering to your HR clients in that regard.
What we are offering, or let me say, the way in which we try to engage clients and people, is that it's really more than ever important to establish a sort of strategic dialogue. What does it mean for a company? The people strategy. So I agree with Fernando. There are different cultural and leadership style, of course, but in the future, probably you have to match the leadership style and the culture of your company with the expectation of the future of the talents. So this means that the new talents and the new young generation are really interested in working in companies that have a clear culture, model, positioning, mindset, and so on. And so this means that the dialogue that we establish with our customers is to try to follow their needs in terms of workforce, but in terms of mindset of the workforce. So the promise that we have as a company, so I come back to Randstad is human forward. This means that all the digital part is essential, but our approach at the moment is our payoff is tech and touch. This means that the human touch is essential in order to listen and understand the needs of the people. Also because the future and the strategy of the people and of the company, of course, will be more and more a bottom-up strategy, let me say. So enable all the change mindset in your workforce is essential to face the challenges that the companies have to face in the next future.
Thank you.
You're right.
Thank you. And Elaine and Fernando, if you'd like to share about perhaps some structures or advice for companies that are kind of like ready to do this, how can they do that with their employees?
Well, I mean, I think especially faced with the conditions that we've experienced this year, every organization has had to re-examine how do we organize ourselves, if that is that's one way to describe what you mean by structures, right? And I would say one example is what I would call a loose, tight structure or way of organizing. What do I mean by that? Let's take, for example, this idea of what do you do with groups of people, right? So the tight part is actually a nice tightness of you have to keep people together. There still has to be a sense of team. There has to be a proper exchange of information and ideas. There has to be team spirit and community, right? Even if you're apart and so on. But at the same time, you need to have the flexibility. This is what people are going to be expecting from now on. And also you have to be able to count on people being able to work a lot more autonomously. So how do you then create the structure of like, how do we, what are our new norms, right? How do we communicate? How do we get together, as it were, right? What are your policies around where people can live, how far they can live, how often do they come to the office? All of those things, I think, need to be and are being re-examined. And I think another thing that I think will be a characteristic of structures going forward is the recognition that more than ever, we're going to be facing polarities. Things that we care about, we place equal value on that may seem to be sometimes in conflict with one another, right? For example, diversity and getting a broad range of views and inclusion with also efficiency, yeah? So you want to consult broadly, but you also want to be able to move ahead and have a clear direction. This has always been the case, but I think more and more now, organizations are going to need to organize themselves and to organize how they make decisions and how they engage people with that recognition that it's black and white. I mean, it never was the answer in so many cases, right? But more and more it is, you can't operate like that anymore in a linear kind of predetermined way, but to really understand that the quest is to how do you find the best of both worlds that you're seeking, and to minimize the negatives of either side.
If I am to add to Fabio and Elaine, I think one topic that for me is critical in any organization is to have a strategy. And this strategy should be the connection on the understanding of the company of what you have to offer of value to the markets where you're operating, okay, or the society that you're operating. So sometimes we undermine the time because we are so focused on execution, and we are losing tremendous impact because of not taking that time, at least on my experience. So the first structural approach that I would suggest to tackle is to take the time to think in terms of the strategy that you aim to follow. And the strategy may be of different ways, but just to be the answer of the company, of any group, to the impact or the value that you are aiming to create, And sorry to go back, and again, it has to be about sensing what is going on in the market, okay? And your strategy needs to adapt to that. But usually it is a midterm. It's 2, 3, 4 years. For me, it's not true that everything turns around from one day to the other. I understand the pandemic, but in the end, there are certain, we're still 6,000, the population in the world is the same. And we are all human beings. And in the end, it's very difficult. As difficult it is to change the culture of a company, it's very much difficult to change the culture of a community, not to say of a country or the world. So there are certain Brexit that are still around, and humans, we don't change overnight. Even within a pandemic, we are still having our habits and our resistance to this extreme reality. And this is what I'm feeling. So the first topic is about, you know, taking the time to think in terms of the strategy, and then try to make it as simple as possible. Sometimes we have too many structures, too many programs, too many initiatives that are targeting always the same people, that people get lost in translation, let's put it this way. And what usually takes, it's instead of empowering action, is detracting the action and of the consequence impact. So are the two things that I would like to address on the structural approach that I would suggest.
Thank you, Fernando, and thank you all for your participation. We have a couple of minutes left, and I would love to invite Dina. We have her doing some scribing. She's heard everything we shared, and I would love to see her what she captured out of our conversations. So if we can play the magic and share the screen, that would be great. And let's just take some moment to connect with this. Wonderful. Thank you. We are right on the hour, but before we go, I want to remind you all to take a look at the one pager on employee changemaking power, which we have in our session page, and also we have a brochure on the program on executives in residence. That all of those offer solutions, concrete solutions for your companies if you want to unleash the power of your changemaking employees. And we also, if you want to connect more with us, please, we have our information in the website. Thank you again to our speakers and all participants, and please enjoy